Goals and objectives. What is a goal and when is it an objective? Well, a goal is the longer term, maybe a whole lesson, maybe a week of lessons, maybe a month. But the goal is a long-term goal of what you want students to learn, or the target. The objective is the small points or steps that it takes to lead you up to the goal. So, a goal defines the end toward which an effort is directed. In this case, you have a little mouse who's trying to get cheese. He's wearing a helmet. The goal is the cheese, but he has to take steps to get there, which are the objectives, and maybe he has to wear a helmet, and mentally he has to be prepared for action. Educational goals. Oftentimes, they're expectations held for groups of students. They're broad, they're attainable, they're a target to be reached, and many times in PK-12, they are based on state standards. One method for remembering what should be in a goal is the SMART method. SMART is nothing more than an acronym to help you remember the parts. S, be specific and describe your goal in precise terms. Measurable, it should be measurable, something that you can either test or students can create a project about. It should be attainable, something they can actually achieve and not beyond their measure. It should be relevant to what the students are learning and what they consider valuable or what you consider valuable for their learning. It should be time-based, and you may not write the time within the goal or objective. However, you need to keep that in mind when you're writing your lesson. So now we're going to look at some examples of goals. Students will describe electrical currents and how electrical currents function within a closed system. Students will examine lines, segments, rays, and points within a math book practice and in the world around us. Students will explain the water cycle, including the man-made and natural-made inhibitors of the process. Learners will demonstrate effective resume writing using desktop publishing principles within Microsoft Word. Notice here the word is used learners and their students. It doesn't matter which you use. Notice that on all of these, the student is the focus, not the instructor or the teacher. Last goal, learners will write goals for their particular lessons that are broad, achievable, and measurable within their lesson. That's what I expect you to do. So if we look at this for a moment, I want to point out some things. Number one, we talked about everything is student-focused, not instructor-focused. There is the word "and" here. Many times, people recommend that you do not use the word "and." So use it judiciously and think about it, because many times if you use the word "and," you can split up the goal into two goals. However, in this case, students probably have some prerequisite knowledge on electrical currents. So putting the two together made sense for that lesson. Good luck in writing your goals, and next we're going to go on to objectives. We're now going to look at objectives. Objectives define what you will have the students do. They're stated in terms of student expected behavior. You talk about the condition of the student performance and specify the level of student performance or the degree to which you expect the students to perform it and your criteria. The condition is probably the most vague out of any of them and can be interpreted many different ways, which we'll see in the examples. There are two ways of remembering how to write an objective. One is SMART and one is the ABCD. By the way, those are two acronyms that we're going to use here, and we've already used a SMART. However, there are other ways to remember how to write an objective. So the ABCD method. A stands for audience, who are your learners. B, the behavior, what do you expect them to do. C, the condition in which the learning will take place. D, the degree, how much will be accomplished, or to what level, or to what extent. Bloom's taxonomy is often used to help determine or help identify the verbs that you can use for your objectives. We're going to look at the old Bloom's taxonomy. You want to use powerful verbs because it's important when you're writing objectives so you can define exactly what you want. Level 1, knowledge, examples of verbs. 2, comprehension, describe, explain, retell, verbs. Level 3, application. 4, analysis. 5, synthesis. And 6, evaluation. I highly recommend that you go on the internet and Google Bloom's Taxonomy of verbs, and you'll find that there are many more verbs for each level here than is described on this PowerPoint, but there's too much to put all on one slide. In science, in groups of 2, students will be able to write a description of electricity in terms of attraction, repulsion, and sparks when asked after watching a PowerPoint with 95% accuracy. Language arts. Individually, students will write a persuasive essay for or against restricting access to the coral reef that will coincide with a 3 rating or proficient rating on the PSSA rating rubric. So now we're going to pick out the parts. You know the objective. We're going to look for the audience. Here's the objective. Take a moment to read it. So what is the audience? You are correct. In groups of 2, students will be able to write it. That's the audience. Next, behavior. What will they be able to do? Write a description. What is the condition? After watching the PowerPoint. You could argue that another part of the condition is the attraction and repulsion of sparks, but that also could be part of the behavior. And what is the degree? 95% accuracy. So now we're going to look at our second objective. First, we're going to pick out the audience. Take a moment to read. Individually, students will write a persuasive essay for or against restricting access to the coral reef that coincides with a 3 rating or proficient rating on the PSSA rating rubric. That is correct. Individually, students. Next, the behavior. What will they do? Yes, they will write a persuasive essay. What is the condition? The condition, just so you know, could always go under behavior. Not always, but in this case it could go under behavior, or it could go under condition. And we're just going to put it there. For or against restricting access to the coral reef. We're going to say that's part of the condition. And what is the degree? A 3 rating on the PSSA rating rubric. So now let's review goals and objectives. Goals are general. Objectives are precise. Goals are broad. Objectives are narrow. Goals, they're not as tangible. Objectives, they really are tangible. Goals takes many objectives to measure a goal. One objective is usually measurable. Quiz time. A good objective contains what? Audience behavior, an audience, a behavior, a condition, a degree, some ways to make sure the students learn what they should. That. However, it does hopefully help you ensure that students are learning what they need to be. Not necessarily, though. Quiz time. What should a goal contain? Broad and generalized statements about what is to be learned, specific and narrow statements about what is to be learned, an audience, condition, a behavior, and a degree. Broad statements. Note that you actually could have the audience, behavior, the condition, and the degree as well. What should a well-written objective show you? Should it convert student behaviors? Should it be specific, measurable, and observable students' behaviors? Should it show you how to teach a subject or the domain you're interested in? Of course. Specific behaviors. Quiz time. What is the objective missing? Now, this will be a different example than we've given in the past. Individual students will be able to run the 100-yard dash in less than 50 seconds. The audience is there. The individual students, the behavior is there, what they'll be able to do. The degree is there. They need to run it in 50 seconds. But the condition, where they will be running, is not there. And that's very important in the case of running. Are they running down the hall? Are they running after me, their professor, or their mother? Or are they running outside on the track? Here's one more objective. What is the objective missing? Given the appropriate text, the whole class will recite the famous poem from the text. The audience? Well, we're saying the whole class. The behavior? They're going to recite the poem from the text. The condition? Well, they're going to kind of do it in the class, but that's not clear. The degree? That's what's missing. How much do you expect them to be accurate? So now review your goals and objectives and use them for whatever project you are going to do.